My mother-in-law was never actually my mother-in-law. You see, she died just 9 months prior to my husband, Corey, and I getting married. 5 years after remission, her breast cancer came back with a vengeance in her bones. At the time, Corey and I were just trying to be normal college students. She tended to hide her cancer from Corey because she was fiercely independent and never wanted to depend on anyone. Even though she herself would drop anything for everyone in her life, even if just to make them chicken soup for a few sniffles. Corey saw her limping, and so he asked her what was wrong. She had cancer of the bones. In the early 90s, the prognosis of this kind of cancer certainly did not bode well. Even we self-absorbed college students could comprehend this, and the doom began to set in. Before we knew it, we were skipping classes and work shifts to take her to the emergency room and help her in all the ways that cancer forces one to help their loved one. She resented the help, not because we gave it, but because she needed it. With her other 2 children living in other states, we became the primary caretakers, along with her extremely loyal friends. With her wit and her charming smile, she was the one that would cheer us all up when we were sad about what was happening to her. When she was high on morphine and we were taking shifts making sure she didn't wander off in the neighborhood naked in the middle of the night, she would make us laugh hysterically. We knew it wasn't disrespectful to laugh at our antics because in her lucidness she would eagerly ask, "What did I do this time?" One time when I was on night watch in the wee hours, she yelled over to me, "Jen, what's your brother's address? I'm updating my address book," as if she would have to send some emergent thank you cards out the next day. She barely knew my brother, but I tiredly rattled it off, and she furiously wrote it down. She then took her pen, thoroughly examined it from end to tip. She put it in her mouth, and she proceeded to skillfully smoke it like a cigarette. She hadn't smoked in many years, but it was clear that she had missed it, and she was quite enjoying smoking her pretend cigarette pen. She looked so adoringly at it that it made me want to run out and buy her some real ones. Being a fairly new couple, trying to sort out through our differences like so many young couples starting out, I wasn't sure at the time that I wanted to keep her son around as my boyfriend, but I knew I wanted to keep her. At the ripe age of 20, I deeply cared for my never-to-be mother-in-law, and she cared for me as if I were her own. She once in jest told me that if Corey and I didn't work out, she didn't care. She was going to keep me over him. When I was having troubles with a housemate and I explained the tumultuous situation to her, she told me that I could leave that bitch behind and come live with her even if she were living under a tree. She was my ally. She told Corey, practically yanking him by the ear, "Don't you fuck this up." When we were visiting her in the hospital, she blurted out incredulously between the cordial questions such as, "How are you feeling? And how's school going? When are you going to marry my son?" I told her that he hadn't asked me yet. My never-to-be mother-in-law pointed to the diamond ring on her finger, the one that her mother-in-law lovingly gave to her so many years ago, and said that it was mine when we were ready. She wanted to see us get married before she died. After Corey did get around to popping the question, and that I decided that yes, I would like to keep him too, she was determined to stay alive so that she could be at our wedding. She started making vases for the centerpieces, but only finished one because she was too sick to finish the rest. We simultaneously talked about wedding plans and funeral plans. She told her pastor and us exactly what she wanted for her service. She didn't want anyone wearing black. Everyone was to wear bright colors just like she wore. And we were to tell funny stories about her, which when it came time for her memorial service, there were no shortage of from her family and friends. We could have gone on for hours, and in fact, I think we might have. In the days and hours before her imminent death, she made sure she covered everything and wrapped up any loose emotional ends. Once when I was alone visiting her, she apologized in complete sincerity because she would never get to meet my children. She told Corey and his brother to take care of their sister, whom she knew would be hit the hardest with her death for many years to come. My never-to-be mother-in-law made her friends and family get together for barbecues after she was gone. Nearly 25 years later, as I get together with friends and we have conversations about their mothers and mother-in-laws and how utterly annoying they find them to be, I realize I miss her. I wish I were able to contribute my complaints about her. I think about all the ways she and I would have gotten on each other's nerves. Perhaps she would have given me a hard time for not being a good wife to Corey and not caring for him like I should when he was sick, possibly judging me for not dropping everything to make him chicken soup. She might have criticized my parenting in the same way. In her feistiness, she would have taught my children to swear in Spanish behind my back as they would have giggled away in delight. I would have been annoyed at the fact that she would have most certainly bought me gaudy decor for my house because as a Puerto Rican, everyone must have a fake parrot hanging from the ceiling in their house. Corey and I would have rolled our eyes as she would have insisted on praying over each room in our new house to ward off evil spirits in her strange mix of Latin superstition and Christianity. I also think about the ways that we would have appreciated each other. Even with her sometimes gaudy sense of style, she had just as equally, if not more, refined taste in antiques. She would have bought us nice furnishings from the expensive antique store down the street to accompany the parrot hanging from the ceiling. She would have made us chicken soup when we were sick. She would have helped my boys with their homework and taken them to their favorite movies. She and my 16-year-old would have most certainly chattered away in Spanish because of his strong love for the language and it being her native tongue. She would have chuckled at the fact that we named him Fletcher because a favorite series of books she and Corey shared and both read repeatedly were the Fletch novels. When my younger son was born, she too would have agreed that he looked just like her when she was a baby. She would have appreciated his dry sense of humor and would have loved him even through his sometimes surly middle school years. My boys would have laughed and then corrected her when she would have mixed up American adages saying things, well, like, it's the camel that broke the straw's back, or it's like finding hay in a needle stack. Even though my grief still overcomes me at times this many years later, and I wish her back on this earth in a heartbeat, I cannot deny the lessons learned and the wisdom gained in knowing her, if even for a short time. Well, before we began our life together as husband and wife, I got to see firsthand how well Corey would take care of me if I should ever be on my deathbed before him. His tenderness and selfless love towards his mother told me everything I needed to know about him. In a sense, the experience grounded us as a couple. We know not to take each other for granted and to not freak out over stupid stuff. We also learned that life is just way too short not to hang a fake parrot from your ceiling. The world lost a bright light from its universe, and I'm incredibly pleased to have known my never-to-be mother-in-law, Emma Jean Romanat.